Love Hewitt started acting when she was just 11 years old, starring in the short-lived series Kids Incorporated, and she was just 14 when she made her big screen debut with a small role in Sister Act 2. She went on to earn household name status thanks to her turn as the lead scream queen in the I Know What You Did Last Summer slasher series, and then as the longtime girlfriend figure in Party of Five, and again as the reigning queen of high school in Can't Hardly Wait. But her career has slowed down considerably in recent years, so here's why Hollywood's been so hard on Jennifer Love Hewitt lately. Drinking that haterade. Jennifer Love Hewitt seems to fall into the same category as fellow brunette beauty Anne Hathaway, and that some people have an inexplicable desire to see her taken down a peg or two in the pop culture sphere. Consider how many tabloids capitalized on those unflattering shots of her hanging out at the beach back in 2007. She went on to great lengths to show off her trim figure afterwards, but those magazines were so quick to pounce on the side of a little cellulite back in the day that it became clear it wasn't just her buxom bod that made people so fascinated by her flaws. Viewers of her latest project, A Season on Criminal Minds, disliked her so much that some even petitioned for her to be written off, and, well, she was. Although that might have had a little something to do with the then upcoming birth of her second kid. Speaking of which, a bad taste. People love to gossip in Hollywood, so whispers of a bad reputation will definitely tend to follow a gal around town. In Hewitt's case, she earned a bit of a bad rap for being difficult to deal with on the set of her TV series The Client List. When she and her co-star husband Brian Halasay were expecting their first child together in 2013, the show was due to be renewed, but the network pulled the plug on it after she reportedly demanded that Halasay's character be deemed the father of her character's child to make art imitate real life. Producers had other plans for the story, so when she wouldn't budge on her baby mama drama, the show was axed altogether. Hewitt has also admitted to having quirks which make her a little difficult for producers to deal with. For example, she once reportedly revealed that her biggest phobia is getting into an elevator when there are too many people on board. And since so many Tinseltown meetings take place in tall buildings, it's been a real problem for her and the executive she's supposed to take meetings with. How's that for a diva dilemma? Sidestepping the drama circuit. Jennifer Love Hewitt might not be perfect, but there's one thing she doesn't get enough credit for: avoiding the rampant child star curse. A lot of kids who gain fame as young as she did tend to get themselves into some major trouble throughout their careers, which only keeps their name in the news even more than before. As they say, any press is good press, even if it is a mugshot. So while Hewitt's managed to avoid becoming a public sideshow and keep a relatively normal public image, her low-key life unfortunately might be contributing to the public's diminished interest in seeing her on screen too. Critical diss. While Hewitt did nab a Golden Globe nomination in 2011 for her work in The Client List, she's otherwise had a lot of trouble keeping the critics at bay over the years. In fact, she was recently named the worst reviewed actress thanks to the consistently low reviews that follow her films and TV shows. A quick glance at her Rotten Tomatoes record highlights the lack of love she's been shown for the critics throughout her career. Every single one of her scored featured films have been deemed rotten, and her latest effort to swap the small screen for the big one was among the worst, being dinged with the green slime by critics who found the film both offensive and unfunny. Ouch. No bacon. In show business, it doesn't always matter what people, even critics, think of an actor or actress, because if they're getting people into theater seats, that's enough to overcome almost any other hang-up. With Jennifer Love Hewitt, that's simply not been the case. Her most successful movie was 1997's I Know What You Did Last Summer, which made a bloody good return on the studio's investment and justified greenlighting a bigger budgeted sequel. However, the second film failed to earn the same kind of loot and marked the first of Hewitt's many high-profile box office blunders. Other bombs include action comedy The Tuxedo, which cost $60 million but only brought in $50 million domestically, and the animated Pic Delgo, which at the time of its release was the worst box office opener in history, earning a measly $500,000 from over 2,000 theaters. Side jobs. Another factor that's probably played a part in the slowdown of Jennifer Love Hewitt's Hollywood career is the fact that she spends a lot of time on projects off-screen as well. Not only has she kept her singing career going since her earliest days in the biz, but she's also a published author. Her first book, a dating advice bestseller called The Day I Shot Cupid, was released in 2010. And now that she's a happily married mom of two, she probably has loads of new advice to offer readers with a sequel. With the recent downtrend in her screen workload, now is as good of a time as any to start tapping out book 2. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more videos like the one you've just seen. And let us know in the comments why you think Jennifer Love Hewitt's not getting as much work lately.
Paris Hilton was once one of Hollywood's most famous folks, and whether you hated or merely tolerated her, her face was everywhere. After epic feuds with fellow socialites, a 5-season run with her breakout reality TV show, and her very creative use of night vision, you hardly ever see her name now. So what's the real reason we don't hear about Paris Hilton anymore? She built an empire. Between 2004 and 2016, Hilton released 20 different perfumes that earned an estimated $2 billion in profit. Hilton called her latest, Gold Rush, mature and very sophisticated, because nothing says sophisticated like a bottle with boobs, obviously. Fragrances were only the beginning. She also runs her own accessory line that includes wallets, watches, and jewelry, which is carried by 50 stores globally. In 2016,
killing spree. Double kill.
got you.
Welcome to the GBT09 set. Today we're going to be taking a look at GBT09 Divine Dragon Caper, and we're also going to mention a few of the latest trial deck cards as well when we're going to be talking about Shadow Paladin. To start off, some specifics about the set. The clans that it supports are Angel Feather, Shadow Paladin, Narukami, Spike Brothers, Gear Chronicle, and Aquaforce, as well as one card for Cray Elementals. The set contains 4 normal reprints, and these normal reprints are Malika, Million Ray, Thousand Ray, and Silence Joker. And then, I'm just going to mention this here as well, but the trial deck for Shadows also has a Howl Owl reprint as well. And then it has 5 old triple rares reworked as reprints, and these are Commander Thavas, Dragonic Descendant, Glory Maelstrom, Raging Foam Dragon, and Vanquisher Voltage. However, in Japanese those cards had a triple rare foiling, but in English we got the cheap end of the stick and they just have rare foiling. But they're only about $5 each, so that's definitely a plus. And one last thing before we do head into the actual cards, here are the SP packs for this set. So, first we have the Shadow Paladin one, which has the 2 Luards, the G-Guard, the Owl, and the Perfect Guard G. Then we have the Narukami one, which has all the Vanquishers, the Grade 3, both Grade 4s, the Stride Fodder, and the Crit for Vanquisher. We have the Spike Brothers one, which has both of the Risings. It has the Maximum G-Guard, the Stride Fodder, and the Crit. And finally, we have the Aquaforce one with all 3 types of Thavas, the Stride Fodder, and the Crit. Before we jump into the cards, I just want to say that at the time of making this video, which is just about days after all the English cards started being shown, all the English prints of the cards, there are many misprints in this set, so pay close attention to the errata on the official Vanguard website. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I only spotted 2 misprints so far, and they're from Angel Feather. That's because I actually have been playtesting that. But if there's any other misprints that you notice throughout this video and that I don't notice while doing the video, please make yourselves heard in the comments, because there are quite a few misprints and I just haven't picked up on all of them yet, and I've been asking on Twitter and stuff like that. But if I don't get some, just point it out. Anyway, we're going to be starting off with the Cray Elemental before we jump into the clans, and this is Light Elemental Honoli. It's got 2 skills. First off, which is the continuous on rearguard circle, all rearguards cannot attack the Vanguard in the 5th or more battle of that turn unless a counterblast of 1 is paid. So essentially, when Time Leap wants to do 8 or 9 attacks, they're going to have to pay 1 counterblast for each of those, which is definitely going to make them stop at least a little bit. Next skill is when you call it, you have to essentially pay a counterblast, but if you call it when you have all your counterblasts already flipped, then you essentially just kind of call it, so it's not that, it's not that bad, but I don't know, things with Oak Elementals, like they'll be played when we get a sideboard in Vanguard, and if we will get a sideboard in Vanguard, nobody knows. So like this is good in theory, but have fun finding space in your deck for this, just to counter a few decks that attack a lot. But I mean, if Aqua Force picks up and Nova Grappler picks up later on, then this could become useful, especially just to counter Time Leap. And now, as most of you probably already know if you've watched at least one other set breakdown, I tend to start in order of least favorite clan to most favorite clan in the set. So we're going to be starting off with everyone's favorite Gear Chronicle. And the main card for Gear Chronicle in this set is Meta Pulsar Split Pegasus. He has two skills. One is it continues in the G zone, so not when you stride him, but only when he's in the G zone. During your turn, if this card is face up, all Zodiac Time Beast units in your front row get plus 1k. So essentially, like as you keep striding him, he kind of powers up your front row more and more. So even if you stride him and you have another one face up, like he'll be powering up your front row. So I do like that they're kind of doing something like where there's effects that are just happening in the G zone. His other skill is a once per turn act. You can count as one and flip any G unit face up. If you have a Zodiac Time Beast Heart, you can choose one of your grade 1 or greater rearguards, put it back to your deck. You search for up to 2 Zodiac Time Beasts with grade -1 of the unit that you put in your deck, call them to separate rearguard circles and shuffle your deck. So you take a grade 1 or 2 or 3, put it back, and then call 2 cards that have 1 grade less than that, but they have to be Zodiac Time Beasts, and you have to stride this on a Zodiac Time Beast as well. But they are slowly supporting Zodiac Time Beasts, and the character booster will give them some more support, but the character booster Gear Chronicle support isn't that great, and thank God. But yeah, so this is kind of the start of a new archetype, but you know, Time Leap looked bad when it came out first, you know? At first people were like, this can't be that good, and then it started topping everything, so we'll see if the same happens with Zodiac Time Beasts. Next up we have Pulsar Tamer Lugalure. When he attacks a Vanguard, if you have a Zodiac Time Beast Vanguard, he gets plus 2k until the end of that battle. That part is not a GB1. However, his second skill is a Time Leap on GB1 in the rearguard circle. When your drive check reveals a grade 3 Zodiac Time Beast, you can soul blast 1. If you do, you Time Leap this unit. So it's good because you can attack with him, and then attack with Vanguard and do the drive check stuff, and then Time Leap him, so you get an extra attack out of that. So, but it's kind of, obviously it depends on luck a little bit, because you need to check grade 3s, but if you're into that, then feel free to use it. Now, that was actually the only double rare that Gears got, and next up we have the rare Pulsar Fluorescent Dragon. So, when you ride him on top of a Zodiac Time Beast, you can count as 1, soul plus 1. If you do, your opponent chooses one of their rearguards and puts it on the bottom of their deck. So not too amazing, since you have to count plus 1 and soul plus 1 just to get rid of a card, and it's very specific what you do with it. You have to ride it on top of Zodiac Time Beast, so if you ride it on anything else, it's bad. And then his other skill is on rearguard circle. When his attack hits a Vanguard, you can counterblast the Zodiac Time Beast. If you do, you choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and they have to put it in the bottom of their deck. That effect is kind of okay, but it's a grade 3 and has a rearguard effect, so I'm not too big of a fan of those, so maybe it's a one-off, but again, this isn't really Time Leap, so yeah, be careful with this one. Next up we have Pulsar Stratos Falcon, so we need to rank up Xyz summon this one. When he's placed on rearguard circle during each battle phase, you can count as 1 if you're in GB1. If you do, he gets plus 4k until end of turn, and you can choose one of your other Zodiac Time Beast rearguards and swap positions with this unit. So he's actually quite alright. I've played against quite a lot of Zodiac Time Beasts lately while testing the new stuff, and I've seen pretty much everyone play this card, so it's quite alright, so I'm not gonna talk shit about it. Next up we have Pulsar Speedy Bunny. He has a GB1 continuous on rearguard circle. During your turn, this unit gets plus 1k for each of your other Zodiac Time Beast units. Sadly, it's only during your turn, but if it was during the opponent's turn, it could get a little bit annoying, but that's pretty much all he does, so he's not that great. An interesting common is Pulsar Tamer Nepada. She has 2 skills. One is a continuous on rearguard circle. If you have a Zodiac Time Beast Vanguard, she gets intercept, and she can intercept from the back row. Her second skill is if she's resting, she cannot be chosen by effects of your opponent's cards. Quite interesting because you get an intercept and she can't be chosen by effect, so it's generally quite alright. And then the final Gear Chronicle card we're going to talk about is Pulsar Hypnosis Sheep. His skill is when you call him from hand, he gets the effect that at the end of the battle that your unit, any of your units attack the Vanguard, you can put him in the soul, so you put this time trigger in the soul, choose one of your rearguards and put it on the bottom of your deck. If you do, you choose one of your Zodiac Time Beast rearguards and stand it. So essentially it bot decks one of your rearguards, he goes to soul and stands a rearguard, so generally not that good, especially since he goes to soul, so you can't even get him back into deck. well, you can, obviously, because it's Gear Chronicle, but, you know, he doesn't directly go back to deck through his own effect. Moving on to one of the GR slots for this set is Conquering Supreme Dragon Dragonic Vanquisher VMAX. Here you see both his GR and SGR artworks, and sadly his SGR actually looks completely terrible because like that text just looks bad, honestly. I'm not sure how it's going to look in person, but from this scan it looks pretty horrible. But his effect is actually quite nice and the deck is quite fun as well. So his effect is, first off, an auto on GB3, Thunder Strike 5. At the end of the battle, this unit attack the Vanguard. If your opponent has no rear guards, you can counterblast 2. If you do, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards and deal 1 damage. So the best part of VMAX is, well, apart from him having a really amazing soundtrack in the anime every time he appears, is this little basically damage pressure. So it has no restriction apart from Thunder Strike 5 and GB3, and obviously the counterblast 2 isn't exactly the cheapest, but the deck can countercharge, so you'll more or less be okay. But generally that's a pretty nice effect. His second skill is when he attacks the Vanguard, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards for each face-up Vanquisher in his card name in your G-zone, and he battles both the Vanguard and the units on the chosen rear guard circles in one attack. So obviously VMAX is not the only Vanquisher stride, you also have Voltage. So first stride you do Voltage and then you go into Vanquisher and then you can already attack 2 rear guards and the Vanguard. So more you're aiming to always be able to hit the whole field. Now some ruling questions, obviously Dismal does interrupt this, because if you Dismal and you make your rearguard just become unable to be hit, then the first skill of VMAX is not going to go off, and the Phyto Selection Neo Nectar G-Guard also saves you from that, and generally there's quite a few ways to interrupt this, but Dismal is kind of the most common way, so just keep that in mind in case you were wondering. Next up, Eradicator's got support in the main card being Dragonic Descended Zillion. So he's sadly not super great, but he has a very nice art, and like I'm gonna say he's still alright, so like at least it's some support for Eradicators. But he has an act once per turn. You persona flip a Descendant Zillion. If you have a heart with Descend in his name until end of turn, he gets the skill, an auto once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked the Vanguard. If the attack did not hit, you counterblast 1, Soul Blast 2, discard 3 cards from your hand, and you stand him and he loses a drive check. Pretty hefty costs. Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 2, and discard 3 is it's not cheap, and it has to not hit. But luckily, you can stride him, flip, face up. It's not on GB2 or GB3 or anything. You can do this first stride, flip him face up, just go for the attack. If it doesn't hit, you can activate it. If it doesn't, whatever, like you did some pressure, like it hit. If, like basically if it hits, you're doing some damage, and chances are if you're striding this, you're really, I mean, unless you really don't want to be doing damage, you're not going to stride into him. You have plenty of other strides to go into, but either you do damage or you don't do damage, and you withstand for a fairly hefty cost. So I want to somehow try to say that he's not all that bad, but obviously like he could be much better than he currently is, because he's basically just a rework of the original Dragonic Descendants, just to fit stride costs. Next up we have yet another Thunderstrike restricted G-Guardian in Bulwark Dragon. So he has a continuous Thunderstrike 3, and Thunderstrike is active when your opponent's bind zone has 3 or more cards. He gets an extra 10k shield, so he's a 25k shield. However, he has a second skill. At the end of the battle that he was placed on Guardian Circle, for every 4 cards in your opponent's bind zone, you choose 1 rest rearguard in your opponent's front row and retire it. So usually you're going to be only retiring 1, because getting a Thunderstrike 8 is pretty damn hard. So unless you're playing against some decks that actually directly put stuff in their bind zone willingly, but you know, most of the time you're going to be only retiring 1 or 0 from this, but I mean, it just sucks that it has to be a Thunderstrike 3. This is completely Thunderstrike restricted, and all the other Narukami decks can't even use this, so yeah, pretty sad. Next up, Gold got a little rework as the new Perfect Guard. He only guards the Vanguard, because now we're getting some Perfect Guards that guard anything. But this one has an ability on the rearguard circle on GB1 Thunderstrike 2. At the end of the battle that he boosted a unit with a Thunderstrike ability, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire one of your own other rearguards. If you do, you return him to hand, and your opponent has to choose one of their rearguards and retire it. This would have been better if you could choose which rearguard they retire, but that's the only reason why I feel it's lackluster. If they would have let you choose, it would have been better, but it's kind of okay.